Welcome to Moms and Mountains, a podcast for moms of all types, divorced, single, married, or widowed. We'll talk about our kids, life, marriages, families, ourselves, and most importantly, our relationship with God. I want to empower all moms to overcome the greatest and smallest mountains of our lives through the power of Jesus Christ. And I want all moms to know they are not alone in their struggles. Thank you for joining me, and let's get into the episode. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Moms and Mountains podcast. So today is going to be a little different. I actually don't have any notes for today, and I just kind of wanted to sit down and talk. And I don't have many episodes out yet, so you may not really know this about me yet, but I am a very type A person. And I tend to like to take notes and prepare very thoroughly before I do anything. This time I wanted to just sit down and not take any notes, not have anything really prepared, and just talk. And this is a little intimidating, a lot intimidating for me, and it strikes some fear into my heart. And it's funny because that's kind of actually what I probably will talk about anyway, is fear. And it's just something that's been on the forefront of my mind, that and freedom. And those are just the things that have been going on in my life lately. And I think I just kind of wanted to have something really casual, sit down and talk about it, and maybe even do something a little bit therapeutic for myself. I know it's been a while since I had a podcast posted up here, and I just wanted to kind of get back into it. And I really felt like God was just kind of like, just get on there and do it. And then, of course, I've had people close to me tell me the same thing. That's always a confirmation. So I guess I'll start by just talking a little bit about the last few weeks of my life. I've actually been, the last week or so, started fasting, and I had never fasted before. I've been a Christian, since I like to say since I was 7. I know a lot of people probably don't quite think that you can truly understand at that age, but I do believe that I did understand at that age. So since I was 7, of course, I was so young. So along the way, there were a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of trauma and bullying and back and forth shifting between homes. One of my parents died when I was very young. So there's been a lot of ups and downs, really, and finding myself and finding my way, and just a whole lot of trauma, a whole lot of abuse throughout my life, even as a kid, even all the way up until recently. I think fear has just been one of those prevalent things. And so, but I had never fasted before, even though being all this time a Christian, I really thought it was kind of like an old school thing. I thought it was something that we don't really need to do. It was a waste of time. I can't do that. I will fall out. I will pass out. I can't do it. I am the type of person that eats every 3 hours on the hour. And I work out and lift weights, and I'm an active person. I always told myself I could not fast. I think I hit a breaking point this weekend, and there's just this situation in my life. And I am so desperate for the freedom in this situation. And it is circumstantial. It is because of previous decisions that I made. And I have kind of been beating myself up about it and telling myself, you made this decision, so you need to just live with it and live with the consequences. And even if those consequences mean you are not necessarily totally free, then you need to just live with it. You made this decision. You're in it. It's kind of like when people say to you, well, if you go to and tell them, well, having kids is hard, right? Having a baby is hard. And sometimes we complain, and we not necessarily complain, but vent. And we're like, this is really hard. And people will just sometimes, not the best people, but sometimes people will just say, well, you decided to have kids. And it's like a smack in the face. And so I think that's what I was doing to myself. And I was telling myself, well, you made this decision, so you need to live with the consequences and the fallout of it. And while there is a piece of that, I think I was just really mentally holding myself back, and I kind of just hit this wall. And I was not really asking God for that freedom. And I think I was condemning myself and telling myself, you don't deserve that freedom because of the decision you made. And so I didn't ask God. I didn't ask him for the freedom from the situation, from the circumstance. And so this past week I decided, well, you know what? There's a lot in the Bible, and I had someone close to me that walked me through this and really kind of like just stood by me through the whole breakdown, and suggested that I start fasting. And so I started doing it, and I said, fine, I'm the type of person that while I do love food and I eat every 3 hours on the hour, when I am upset or anxious, I tend not to eat. So I was already feeling kind of like, I don't want to eat anyway because I'm upset. So I started it. And about 2 hours after I decided to start the fast, something came through. And I was like, wow, it was a financial, like huge financial blessing. I was like, okay, all right, so we're going to do this. And I told myself, okay, and I told God, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this until I gave myself, 5 days, which is insane. Now, I am drinking oat milk and V8 and like bone broth and stuff, and water, of course, lots of water, but so I'm not like totally no calories, since of course I have my daughter. I need to care for her. I need to make sure that I'm okay. But overall, it has been kind of amazing. I didn't expect that. Really, I just kind of went into it like, whatever. It is biblical. It does say to do, fasting and prayer in the Bible. And there's the verse in Matthew, and I cannot remember the chapter right now, but I believe it's verse 17. Of course, no notes, guys, right? But it says that it's Jesus, and when he's telling his disciples, they come back from trying to cast out a demon, and they say, why couldn't we cast this demon out? And he says, because this demon can only be cast out by prayer and fasting. And I was like, you know what? This demon, this circumstance I am wrestling in my life can only be cast out by drastic means. Drastic, right? It's like you get to that point where you don't see the end. It just feels like you are stuck in this black hole of nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm desperate. So I think it's really just opened my eyes up, and it forced me to realize that I am totally dependent on God. I tend to be very type A, like I had mentioned, and I try to do everything very perfectly, including this podcast. I mean, notes, and I take notes beforehand, and then I study it and read over it, and and I make sure everything's okay, and blah, blah, blah. And, even with work, everything has to be perfect. With school, everything has to be perfect down to the T. Decisions I make, every decision has to be the exact decision, because I'm terrified that if I make the wrong decision, I'm going to fall into this black hole of making the wrong decision. Everything will be all crazy and messed up, and it'll be my fault. And saying it out loud sounds kind of ridiculous. And especially when you are a follower of Christ, you are taught biblically that God's will cannot be messed up by us. We can't mess up his will. We can't mess up his plan. It's just not going to happen. We're not that powerful. So it kind of really like quieted my mind. It, especially the first few days, because low calories, right? So your brain is like on half capacity. And so all these things started happening in concordance with me being at half capacity in my brain. Just calls started coming through, dominoes started lining up and falling into place. And I'm making these decisions on my brain being half capacity. This is also one of the most important times a year for my job, where I am writing really important documents, and they're due this week at the end of the week. And of course, this is the week I decided to fast, and I didn't even think about that. And lo and behold, I'm writing these documents and I'm reading them back and going, hey, that's not half bad. And which is so crazy to think about. So it really just caused me to step back and go, I'm really reliant on him, and I don't need to be that super type A. Everything has to be incredibly perfect, because guess what? It's never going to be perfect. We are going to mess up. We are not going to make right decisions. And by the way, some of the decisions I'm thinking of, very, very small things. Not that they don't matter, but like they're kind of insignificant sometimes. And yet I'm so worried about these little decisions. And in the end, if we have faith in God, we have faith in his plan and in his will, that's enough. I mean, knowing that his will, that's the goal, right? So as a Christian, the more you walk with him, the more you read the Bible, the more you pray, the more you feel his presence, the more he speaks through other people, the more he speaks through podcasts and YouTube. And I believe God speaks through multiple avenues, right? The Bible is the solid source of truth. Of course, everything should be compared to the Bible, but God does speak through multiple avenues, and he speaks through nature. He speaks through other people. But the more you walk with him and the more you experience him, the more you desire for his will instead of your own. And I really believe that the reason for that is because you trust him and you see it in your own life play out, and you go, oh, wow, your will is way better than what mine was. And you see it looking back on your life. And also, God knows way more than we do. He knows everything, of course. He knows how everything will play out. He knows the ins and outs of the situation. He knows every single detail. So, of course, he's going to choose the best. He's going to orchestrate the best plan. Now, I don't believe that God forces anybody to do anything. We all have free will. But he is also all-powerful, and he can orchestrate things to carry out his will, and he does. It's kind of something I still have a hard time wrapping my brain around, but I'm learning to really just trust it. And as I grow closer to him, really just experience it and get a better grasp on it. I guess that's the fun part of the journey about the relationship, having a relationship with God and growing in it. It is a journey. It's not an overnight thing. You're not going to know everything all at once. Again, that's the type A personality coming out in me, is I want to know everything right now. I want to be perfect at this. I want to be top notch. I want to be A+ student. It's not like that. And I'm like preaching to myself. It's not like that. It's not you've got to be top of your class. It's a relationship, and it's a journey, and it's a process. And making mistakes is not you're a failure. They're just mistakes. Even making, you're sinning. Okay, no problem. Like, repent. You're going to feel broken about it. It's good to feel broken about it. But that doesn't mean you need to just wallow in it, in the shame and in the guilt and in the shame, condemnation of it. Satan uses those things. So I am on my last day of my fast today. I am really excited. I can't tell you how good it feels to, number one, have done it. And I don't believe I did it on my own will, or on my own power. I mean, I eat. I'm not overweight by any means because I do work out, but I eat. I'm a decent sized person. Like, I like to, put some food down and some cookies, and it's Christmas time. And I had just bought a big pack of sugar cookies, of Christmas cookies, the little trees with those little sugar, crystals. Oh man, they're so good. And actually, someone very close to me bought those for me. I shouldn't say I bought them, but I'm like, I had a whole pack of them, and then I fasted the same day. Started the fast. So I don't think that this was by my power at all. I think it's the image of, I heard a sermon maybe last week. I forget. I think it was Red Rocks Church, I believe, which I just started listening to. I forget the pastor's name. But he said, he was talking about a sermon on anxiety, and he said that he was telling a story about when he was a kid, someone bullied him, and he told his dad. And his dad said, get in the car. And he got in the car, and they drove over to the other kid's house, and the dads talked. And the dad talked to the other kid's dad. He uses the saying, and it's stuck with me since that sermon last week that I heard it. All I had to do was tell him and get in the car. And so I feel like it's such a good metaphor. For me, I think what I've been trying to do for pretty much my entire life is drive the car myself. Actually, what I've probably been trying to do is have someone else drive it, someone else close to me, a parent or an ex-husband or a boyfriend or a friend or someone at church or a pastor, or I could just keep naming. And I think I did this because I was so afraid to mess up, because I wanted to be perfect, and I was trying to find my identity in perfection, and I was valuable if I was perfect. And I think that was my thought process for my whole life, and I was trying to prove my value with my perfection. And because I knew I wasn't perfect, I would ask other people, what should I do? And I would let other people tell me what to do. And that led me into abusive situations, and it did damage. And so I think just realizing, I'm not perfect. And so, the fast, it just hammered it home. I mean, this is something that I've been working on a long time. I've been in therapy for 3 years now. And of course it is not Christian therapy, but it's still like self-work, which I think is invaluable. But I've been doing this work for a long time. And I think doing this fast this week just, I don't know, jump-started, hammered it home, whatever cliche saying you can think of that, sped it up, whatever you can think of. It really solidified something in me, and made me realize that I can jump out and do things without it being 100% perfect. And it is freeing. I started the last few weeks not feeling free. I said, God, I'm not free. I don't feel free. For one reason or another, I cannot just, for basically one reason, I cannot just pick up and move. I cannot go here. I can't do this. I feel like I'm restricting myself in this area or this area. Whatever the case is, I don't feel free at all. I feel like I'm held back. I feel like there's a limitation on me. And I think doing this fast made me realize there is freedom in not being perfect, in not doing everything perfect. It's like you can just let it go, because knowing that God's will is going to happen no matter what. And that's what we want. We want God's will because, and it's not just God's will, like, oh, well, it's what he wants and he doesn't care about us. No. When you read the Bible, when you walk with God, you realize that he wants the best for us, for his children, which is humanity, which is those who accept him. He wants us all to accept him. But for those that do accept him, he wants the best for us. Well, he wants the best for every single person on this planet, no matter who they are. He wants the best for them. And that's why he sent, or I would say he sent his son, but also he died himself. That's a good distinction to remember, that God himself died for us because he is all 3 in 1. I believe he is 3 in 1. That's why he died for us. I mean, who does that? What God would die for their people? And I kind of lost track of what I was trying to say, but there's freedom in that. There's freedom in knowing that you can make mistakes, because when you sit down and you say, what job do I want to take? Where do I want to live? Do I want to initiate this move? Do I want to initiate, where should I put my kid into school? When should I put my kid into school? All of these decisions, I think Satan uses these to paralyze us. And we could sit there and go, I don't know what God's will is. I don't know what God's will is. Or, and then we're like, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake and then screw up my whole life or screw up my kid's life. Like, it's okay. Just make a decision. And especially in those smaller, not that they're small or anything, but in the day, especially in the day-to-day, like, just move. And knowing that when we jump, God will be there to catch us. Now, on the flip side, that doesn't mean to be totally, I'm not going to take in any information. I'm not going to gather information. I'm just going to whatever. And I'm not that person. I am so far from that person that I think doing this fast, getting my brain to half capacity, not being able to really be 100% in that regard, was good for me, because I am the person that will take it to the extreme of researching everything. And I will get on Google and I will Google the same thing over and over and over. I'll go into like the 10th or 15th page of Google, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, who does that? So it's just, I needed to be knocked down a peg, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure you can, I feel like my stomach is probably growling. I'm sure you can probably hear it. I am hungry. But I think, I just think it was so good. And I guess I just wanted to come on here. And of course, it was supposed to be kind of short. And, I'm already at 23 minutes, which is so funny. But I just wanted to come on here and encourage you, whoever is listening, try it. It is really hard, and be smart about it. Don't like just be like, I'm not going to eat or drink anything. I'm fine. And then just be passing out, like, take it slow. Of course, if you have medical issues, just be smart about it. I mean, even in the Bible, there are situations where like, Daniel, where he only ate vegetables and water, so there are options. But I think the purpose is more important. You can give up anything, and what it does is it just refocuses you, and you go, okay, it is a reminder. Every time you feel hungry, every time you realize, oh, I can't eat that, I can't have the cookies, or whatever you're experiencing in that moment, whatever you're giving up and you wanting in that moment, it's a reminder, and it goes, oh, I'm fasting. Oh, okay, I need to pray. And it jumpstarts you. And so, like, for me, instead of eating lunch, I would pray. So on my like little lunch break for work, I would just sit down, my daughter's asleep, I'm on lunch break, and I'm praying. And I have had the last week just insane times of prayer. And even during one of those prayers, I was physically on my face in my living room crying, like, God, free me. Please free me. I'm not free. And I think for me, it was mentally and emotionally and circumstantially. And in that moment, I'm crying out to him, and I'm just on my face, and a call comes through that I needed to come through. And it was like, okay, all right, he's moving and he's doing things, and I'm seeing it happen. I think the hardest thing for me to accept is that my freedom may not look how I want it to look circumstantially. Mentally and spiritually, I think is a different situation, but circumstantially, it may not look how I want it to look. And that has been really hard. There have been things that I've asked God, and I've said, okay, as your child, you've told us to come boldly to the throne. I don't know how bold I am right now because I feel guilty asking you for anything because of everything you've given me. And I have so much, and I should be thankful. And why am I asking for more? I feel embarrassed. And I think this week I just went, you know what? I'm desperate enough, and I'm just going to ask. And so I don't know if that's going to play out, but realizing that his will will happen. What is best for the situation, what is best for me is his will. He knows everything. So if it doesn't happen how I want it to happen, if my request is denied, basically, and God is not a request and answer service, just so we're clear. But I don't know how else to explain it. But if my ask, it's an asking, like asking a parent for something, right? You're asking with gratitude, not like demanding. But if my ask is denied, and I even said this while I was praying, I will feel disappointed. But I know that there's a reason. I know that it'll work out because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen time and time again. Just even the situations I've been in and then come out of, he has used these things for good. So, there were times where I wanted to move somewhere and God said no. And now looking back, I go, wow, thank you. That was not the right move. So, he knows everything. So I think it's so important to just trust him because he knows everything. It's kind of pretty simple. So I don't know, just wanted to encourage you guys and encourage you to try maybe fasting in your own way. Of course, this is a podcast for moms, so we all have kids for the most part. Maybe some of us don't, but don't do anything, of course, that would cause you to affect that responsibility of being a mom. And that was kind of my primary concern. But also don't let the devil tell you, you can't do that. I had a lot of lies whispered in my ear while I was trying to do this and while I was trying to start it and even during it. And it was like, oh, you need to eat because this, you need to take care of your kid, blah, blah, blah. And it's been amazing. Like, I actually have I only got a little dizzy one time. I had some like broth and I've been fine. And it's been kind of crazy. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but there has been no point where it hasn't been safe and I haven't been able to do my responsibilities. And if anything, it's kind of just like cleared my mind. And so I've been able to focus more because my anxiety tends to get on overdrive. Not having food in me has knocked me down a notch. Like I said, like I said before, my brain's at half capacity. My anxiety has been kind of crippled. It's like it cut off the flow. It cut off the oxygen to my anxiety. And it's really quieted my mind. I mean, there were times where I could feel the anxiety starting to come up. And then I would go, ugh, I don't even have the energy for that. So it's been great. So I don't know what my freedom will look like. I know that after this week, I do trust the outcome more than I did before. I'm praying really, really intensely for some things to come through, and some things, like I said, that may not happen, but I'm still asking really intently and intensely for. But it's yet to be determined what that freedom will look like exactly. But I know that there has been a freedom achieved this week for me in just knowing that I do not have to be perfect. And it's like, I knew that, but actually experiencing it and living it was a little bit different this week. So, I hope this was encouraging. I did not expect to talk this long, but I'm glad I got on here. I'm glad I did this. No notes, guys, which is insane for me. So I hope that this was encouraging for you. It was just a little bit of a testimony situation. Didn't really talk much about parenting, but I guess it all plays together. But I just hope that maybe you try this and it furthers your relationship with God and it furthers your prayer life. And if you try this, let me know. Let me know on the Instagram. Let me know in comments. I would love to hear stories of this because I really thought that fasting was not something that really did much of anything but made you hungry. And I've been proven wrong. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a review. This helps to recommend this podcast to others. You can also follow my Instagram at Moms and Mountains Podcast, all one word. Bye-bye for now, and we'll see you at the next episode.